the level of hockey is being played. Like, if you're not really into the NHL, you should watch this and you will enjoy it. Like, it's a different level of hockey. Like, the NHL, basically, there's like 6 really good guys on each team. And in the Olympics, like, every guy is good. Like, it's next level. It's something to behold.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers record was better, but he's still a James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
George Rutschman is an interesting one here. I mean, this was somebody that we were told was going to be a superstar. I feel like we've done this now with back-to-back young catchers on Baltimore that they've taken. They've taken Matt Wieters. Remember when they took him super high and everyone thought he was the second coming? Then they took Adley Rutschman. I guess the good news is they have Sam Basallo, who's supposed to be fantastic too, but can't whiff on 3 like that, can you?
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Right back at it here, hour number 2, having some fun here. This is a gold medal performance by Tom Vecchio and Donnie Rightside right now. This is what we do on the SportsGrid Network, and we got you covered all the way through, straight through to August. And some people might be saying, Tom, why are you guys live with a Major League Baseball show? I don't know. Spring training's going on. Hot topics are out there that we need to keep you involved. And also, Tom, that long runway, it doesn't feel like, hey, by the way, we just appear on a Sunday when baseball just starts. Let's get caught up in what we think. You get the slow play this time, all the way through to opening day. And by the way, this show's going to have a heavy influence on the World Baseball Classic coming up as well.
We will. We're going to go through, as we said, just kind of recap things for people that are maybe just tuning in, weren't here last week, whatever it was. We're going AL team by team. Next week, we'll do NL team by team. But as you said, Donnie, we're going to be approaching the World Baseball Classic, and we're going to be handicapping those games as we would normally for any Sunday. So we'll do that. We'll mix that in. We'll go through all the awards markets. And, there's a lot to cover because, we could just talk about World Series prices, AL prices, whatever it might be. But we have to cover everything A to Z. We have to talk about player props season long. Some players are going to be, unfortunately, they're going to get hurt in spring training, which is the reality of it. But there's a lot to cover. And, today's an all AL day. So let's get to it.
Let's get to it here. The AL East standings as they appeared last year, Tom. You saw 2 teams tied at the top, 94 wins. That was the New York Yankees and the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays get the edge with the tiebreakers here, followed closely by the Red Sox. Then there's the Rays and the Orioles. It's a very, very competitive division. So if we extend it to this year, Tom, and we'll get to the win totals in just a few moments, we're looking at the Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Orioles, and Rays in order here, plus 180 all the way down to 20-1. And it's no surprise, Tom. It is the Yankees at a plus 180 here, closely followed by the Toronto Blue Jays and also the Boston Red Sox. I think it's going to be absolute theater watching those 3 teams this year battle back and forth. I'm not going to leave out the Baltimore Orioles, even though that pitching staff's a little bit lackluster. I like that lineup, but there's always the Rays lurking, being that thorn in the side at 20-1. But if we look at the top of the standings here, odds-wise, Yankees, Blue Jays, and Red Sox right there. Is it the Yankees for you?
It's not. I think the answer for me is the Blue Jays yet again, but I don't love the number on the Blue Jays. So, you alluded to when we were going over the Blue Jays, is there going to be a little bit of a World Series hangover? Team starts slow, whatever. So, I haven't placed any season-long MLB bets, but I'm almost willing to wait on the Blue Jays. And I honestly hope they start off slow and I can get them closer at 3.5 or 4-1 to win the AL East. Then I will be actively looking to buy. And obviously, this is something that we're going to discuss as March and April and May move on. But if the Blue Jays start off slow, give me them at a 3.5 or 4 number, and I will absolutely bet on them to win the AL East.
Like, I do think it's interesting. And again, as you look at those odds price points, it's not like, okay, plus 120, the next team is 4-1. Like, those top 3 teams are toe to toe to toe. And I love the moves that the Boston Red Sox make. Now, granted, they need some younger players to step up, but you get certainly serviceable pitching to top end pitching in that rotation when you get Ranger Suarez over if he stays healthy and the back isn't an issue. I like the way they set up. And again, the Blue Jays, heart of a champion last year. I mean, sometimes we look at that World Series like, oh, yeah, what did the Dodgers win 4-1? No, that was Game 7, unbelievable. And also, you had a lead going back to Toronto. You just needed to pick up a winning Game 6 or 7, and you could have won that here. The question, though, is, again, what are we getting out of the Rays? More of that fodder team where they're back in the trop, and it's just boring at this point. But the Orioles, again, picture this at a plus 430. I don't know, Tom, if they have enough to win this division, but they're going to be a fun team to bet all the way through the season. I just like that lineup overall. But for some reason, for me, I look at that Red Sox and say, is there a chance if they get off to a hot start, can they carry this division?
I would say the same thing about the Orioles. I don't know if they're good enough to win the division, but I know they're good enough to cause an issue for the other teams. That's a clear thing. That late season, if the Yankees are playing the Blue Jays and, they need to pick up X amount of wins, it's like maybe if the Orioles then have to play the Blue Jays next, the Orioles are going to be the team that actually causes more trouble for the Blue Jays because they're worried about the Yankees. So, like, this dynamic of these 3.5 teams is going to be very interesting as the season unfolds.
Taking a look, Tom, here at the AL Central as it finished up last year. And we were on this show, and I remember talking to you, let's just call it January, in July and August. Detroit, just like the easiest runaway you've ever saw. And all of a sudden, Tom, they couldn't play anymore. And here come the Guardians down the stretch with 88 wins to take control here. The Royals, 82-80. You know they're going to get another good punch from them this year. The Twins, 70-92, sort of fell off and sold off their team. And there's the White Sox, only winning 60 games last year. The top 3 in this, Tigers, Royals, and Guardians from last year. It feels to me, Tom, like this year, you're only going to be paying attention to the Tigers and the Royals because I don't think the Guardians have very much this year. It's a 2-team race now for me, no longer a 3-team race.
Couldn't agree more. The points that I was making about the teams making the playoffs, I said Mariners, Rangers, we'll get to that in a minute. I think it's going to be Tigers, Royals, Guardians, Twins, White Sox in that order. That's, I think, the exact finishing order of the AL Central is going to be. Tigers win it. They're not going to collapse like they did last year. The Guardians aren't going to go 20-2 or whatever it was over the last set of games in September to storm back. Crazy. That's not going to happen. They just don't have enough talent. And I think the Royals are going to be better this year than they were last year. We got to remember, they made the playoffs 2 years ago. Also, bringing in the fences, as we noted, more offense from them. Yeah. So Tigers win, Royals second, Royals make the playoffs.
Most complete team for me in that division is the Tigers. And I love when they pick up Valdez because now you're like, okay, you got Scuba, who's the best pitcher in baseball. Now Valdez can pitch the way he knows he's supposed to pitch there and in a pitcher's ballpark. That could be really good. And it's just up to that lineup. Maybe this year, Tom, that lineup turns household. You see the Tigers' rotation right here. That 1-2 punch there, absolutely sensational. I do like the signing of Verlander. Well, Donnie's not very good. He's going to be hopefully healthy and just be an innings eater here. And Flaherty, Tom, if we talk about him, and I'm not talking about bounce back to a 2.95 ERA. Bounce back and give these serviceable quality starts. That's really good for them. And then you take a look at that lineup all the way through. And again, I'll say it. It's not household names. Household to me and Tom. That's a strong looking lineup.
It is. When it comes to Jack Flaherty, I got to remember some of his numbers from last year and dig into more, but he was pushing a 27, 28% strikeout rate. Yet his ERA was over 4, yet he struggled with home runs so much. So Flaherty pitched well last year, but he got unlucky, which is a lot of the things that we talk about when a pitcher's like, oh, he's pitching terribly, but he's getting lucky. He's pitching great, but he's getting unlucky, all those sorts of dynamics. So Flaherty's a pitcher that I think is actually going to be the same that he was last year, but he's actually going to have better ERA, fewer home runs, because if he can maintain that 27, 28% strikeout rate, he's going to cruise through innings at sometimes. Just don't get unlucky with home runs and fly balls.
Now we take a look at that ALS winner out here, and last year taking a look at those lineups. I mean, it was so much fun, Tom, just watching the Mariners all the way through. 90 wins last year, followed by the Astros at 85 wins. Rangers at 81-81, which is a minor miracle with how many injuries they had to their starting pitching staff and their lineup itself. And then you obviously take a look there at the Athletics and the Angels. It was competitive all the way through, but if you look at the odds set right now, Mariners at a plus 100 price, the Astros at plus 260, and the Rangers at plus 330, Tom. And I know we look at this and say to ourselves, the Rangers at plus 330, man, just sitting out there like a sore thumb, ready to challenge if they can stay healthy. But I do think, honestly, the books had to make the Mariners the favorite at plus 100 because to me, they are the best team, but maybe the highest upside could be the Rangers.
Agree completely. The Mariners number, frankly, this might be one of the better numbers you get it all season, unless they get off to a super slow start and the Rangers come out on fire, and all of a sudden, the Mariners are 2-1, 2.5-1. But yes, the Mariners are there at plus 100, as I'm often going to say throughout the year, solely for risk aversion for the books. They're never going to hang a big number on the Mariners because they just don't want it to be a liability. I have more, as we'll get into some of these odds as the year gets closer. But the Rangers to make the playoff odds, that's what I would have the most interest in. If I can check these quickly for the Rangers to make the playoffs, that's where I'm going to have the most interest. They're plus 120. They're not good enough to beat the Mariners and win the division, but them making the playoffs, that's where I'm at with them.
It does make some sense, too. And again, you have plus 100 there on the Mariners. You got the Astros at plus 260, the Rangers at plus 330. Then you have that drop-off with the Athletics. They'll be competitive. They're just not good enough in the starting lineup here from their pitching rotation. And then the Los Angeles Angels, you get what you get here. Maybe it's one of those where you just take overs and Joe Adell has a repeat season. But that is awesome, that top three. And also, the Houston Astros, that championship pedigree here, which you're sort of passing over, can they get into a bounce back? But usually it's like, they have some of the best pitchers, the best bullpen, and also the best lineup in baseball. Tom, that's no longer the case. They're no longer the most talented team in the division, which they usually always are.
I think that those years are past. I really do. Yeah. And I keep thinking about the Athletics, like you said. If they had better pitchers, Donnie, that lineup, I would have interest. If they had one more good starter, I would take a position on them to make the playoffs. They're just not there yet.
And by the way, we're going to take a look at some of these team totals throughout the season. American League with that focus here. MVP looks here. Some also totals. We got you covered on Pro Baseball Today. It's Donnie and Tom. We'll be right back.
The level of hockey is being played. Like, if you're not really into the NHL, you should watch this and you will enjoy it. Like, it's a different level of hockey. Like, the NHL, basically, there's like 6 really good guys on each team. And in the Olympics, like, every guy is good. Like, it's next level. It's something to behold.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers record was better, but he's still James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
George Rutschman is an interesting one here. I mean, this was somebody that we were told was going to be a superstar. I feel like we've done this now with back-to-back young catchers on Baltimore that they've taken. They've taken Matt Wieters. Remember when they took him super high and everyone thought he was the second coming? Then they took Adley Rutschman. I guess the good news is they have Sam Basallo, who's supposed to be fantastic too, but can't whiff on 3 like that, can you?
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Totals, Tommy, that we like to take a look at. And again, we love team totals, which again is basically win totals here just with your team at this point. If we look at the AL, we just talked about some of those odds here to win the AL East. And certainly a correlation of if you think they're going to win, they're going to be the favorites, they must have the highest team total here. If you look at the New York Yankees, Tom, coming in first right now in the AL East with a win total anticipated at 90.5, followed by the Red Sox, Blue Jays, Orioles, and Rays. We will get to that. The Yankees getting to 90 wins this season. Old school baseball, as I want to bring it up, Tom, used to play way more games in your division. So it's like, man, that division's really tough. They're going to play a lot of teams. It's no longer the case. Now, you still do play more teams in your division than not. But I look at that Yankees win total. Am I wrong to think if you get a healthy Yankees team, barring disastrous injuries, and Garrett Cole comes back, how are they not in the 90s, Tom?
They should be, and that's what it really comes down to. They should be in that 93, maybe 94 range, especially if they're going to get healthier as the season goes on.
They got 94 last year.
Right, with Cole and Rodon coming back. Cole didn't pitch at all last year, but in fact, they're going to get these players back as the season goes on. They should be getting healthier, obviously there's going to be a big push for them to make big splashy moves at the deadline because they need to. So that would only bolster it. I think the 90.5 number is super accurate. If you could get an 89.5 number with, I would almost be comfortable playing 89.5 over minus 140 if I could have that option.
And also, how good Max Fried was, man. 2.86 ERA. Usually you go to the Big Apple, I just can't perform that. Like, remember when Sonny Gray was supposed to be Max Fried and just couldn't perform there. If you can get back one of the best pitchers in the world, top-notch, all the way through the season, that's going to be something to watch. And again, just as a backboard for last year. Now, also, sometimes the smartest man in the room, Tom, is actually the odds makers here. You go, wait a second. The Yankees had 94 wins last year without Garrett Cole, and he comes back. Now you're only placing at 90. It shows the talent of the American League here, where those doormat teams are still going to be competitive for the most part. But for me, Tom, if I'm starting the Yankees, I think they're 91-plus wins this season here, which, again, two second-place teams, let's call it here, 87.5 for the Red Sox, 87.5 for the Toronto Blue Jays. If I gave you one wager, Tom, between those two teams to hit their over or under, which way would you take it between the Red Sox and the Blue Jays?
I think I would go Blue Jays over 87.5. I think they have too much talent. I think the upside for the Red Sox is limited to a certain point, but the floor for the Red Sox is very low, right? If the hitters, the young hitters don't step up, the back end of the rotation is bad, and the bullpen is bad, the floor for the Red Sox is much lower. I think the Blue Jays still have a very high ceiling. Again, I think them being aggressive at the deadline is something that we should be expecting at this point. Not like are we going to question it, or are they going to go do it? I think there's an expectation that they will reach that expectation. So I think there's the range of outcomes for the Red Sox is too wide for me to buy into.
Yeah, I'm interested in this too because, sometimes you talk your way through it, Tom, and again, it's like, hey, you better come up with your best bet here because the season starts in 15 minutes. I just look at the Red Sox, and the more research I do, where, yes, that lineup does have to take a nice little jump with some of those players, but just balancing out that pitching staff on top of it and saying, okay, if Crochet has the same form that we saw last year, 2.59 ERA, Ranger Suarez was really good, a little bit injured last year, but he's healthy coming into the season. Let's put him around a 3 ERA. That's your 1-2 punch. And then also, guys, where you make the move for Sonny Gray, 4.28 ERA. Can he bounce back there? Bayo's competent, and then you have some guys also that are injured looking to get back into that rotation. So for me, and sometimes you look at last year, I loved what Toronto did. I'm rooting for them. They're fun. And also, that's a ballpark we should be able to do some damage over base hits in that ballpark, RBIs. We're going to keep an eye on them. But sometimes, Tom, getting to that World Series, playing that much extra baseball, coming up short there in devastating fashion, sometimes there's a little bit of a hangover. But if I ask you one question, like the catalyst, can we get Vladdy 35-plus bombs this year, Tom? Why not?
He should. And frankly, I saw a quote from him the other day saying he's moved past the World Series loss. I want to see Vladdy come out angry. I want to see him come out mashing the ball. And, a lot has been talked about his underlying metrics with the line drive rate and not getting the ball elevated. But Bo Bichette's no longer there. I want to see Vladdy come out with some fire and say, this is his team. He signed the long contract extension last year. Let's come out, let's mash the ball, and let's prove that they should be among the best in not just the AL, but all of baseball.
Disappointing team last year, Tom, in the AL East had to have been the Baltimore Orioles. A lot of expectations coming in, only 75 wins on the season. Now we take a look at their win total this year, Tom. It's a full 10 games higher, which is the anticipation of solid moves in the offseason, but more importantly, that lineup maturing, and that lineup should be able to hit in that ballpark here. Is it worth, Tom, an extra 10 games based on last year?
If their 10 games better, I'm not going to be surprised. Doesn't mean I want to bet into a line that has moved 10 games. Both things can be true. If they end up with 86, 87 wins, am I going to be shocked? No, of course not. They have a ton of power and talent in that lineup. But I'm not going to bet into a number that has moved past what I think is reasonable. If you gave me an 83 number, 84 number, maybe, and I'm saying, what's a big difference on a couple wins? I don't want to bet in something that's moved 10 wins. It's just too much for me.
And by the way, take a look at some of the statistics from last year, Tom, because we always, front end of the rotation, how's that lineup going to do? The bullpen here, 4.50 ERA for Helsley. You pick him up as a free agent here. Right. Also, Kittredge, 3.40. You got Aiken, 3.41. Then you have Cano at 5.12. You have Inns at 4.08. It doesn't look like a fantastic back end of the bullpen or bullpen itself right now.
No, it doesn't. They traded away Batista in the trade deadline last year. In the offseason, they bring in Helsley, like you said. So they did essentially replace that potential back-end closer. But it's really not the back-end closer that's the issue. It's getting to the back-end closer with a lead would be the issue, because I'm not sure the starting rotation is good enough to maintain a ton of leads. If Helsley can get into the game and they have the lead, okay, sure, sign me up. But getting to that point is the issue.
Yeah, how about getting to the point here? You take a look at the Rays listed at 76.5. Last year, they did get 77 wins, but it also feels like you have to recalibrate based on where they're going to be playing back. Can that pitching staff hold off? And also, some of that offense they got, was it superficial last year? 300 batting average out of Yandy Diaz, 316 out of Aranda there. And then, of course, you have Caminero with the 45 bombs. But how does that transition over? But sometimes, Tom, like fading the Rays never makes any sense, because wait a second, we're late May and they're in first place in the division. Like, we get that out of the Rays, but the Rays are projected with the lowest win total, Tom. And by the way, it's not even close. Like, put that graphic back up on the screen. Yanks 90, Red Sox 87, Blue Jays 87, Orioles 85.5, Rays 76.5. We're talking long distance, Tom, last place.
Yeah, I would say under or pass for me. I know fading the Rays can be tough. I just don't think there's enough talent, and I don't want to buy into a lack of production or the missing production that we had last year.
Isn't this fun talking Major League Baseball in the month of February, people? Before you know it, we're going to have 2 feet of snow in the Northeast, but it's still baseball season, right? We'll be right back after this short break.
The level of hockey is being played. Like, if you're not really into the NHL, you should watch this and you will enjoy it. Like, it's a different level of hockey. Like, the NHL, basically, there's like 6 really good guys on each team. And in the Olympics, like, every guy is good. Like, it's next level. It's something to behold.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. You saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers' record was better, but he's still at James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
George Rutschman is an interesting one here. I mean, this was somebody that we were told was going to be a superstar. I feel like we've done this now with back-to-back young catchers on Baltimore that they've taken. They've taken Matt Wieters. Remember when they took him super high and everyone thought he was the second coming? Then they took Adley Rutschman. I guess the good news is they have Sam Basallo, who's supposed to be fantastic too, but can't whiff on 3 like that, can you?
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
We'll get to the Central, but first I want to take care of the West, which I think is absolutely fascinating here with team totals. And if you take a look, it's expected to be a very competitive race once again. The Mariners with a team total listed at 90.5, the Astros at 85.5, the Rangers, Tom, 83.5, the Athletics at 75.5, and the Angels there listed at 70.5. If we take a look last year at the standings, how they finished up, 90 wins for the Mariners, 87 for the Astros, 81 for the Rangers, 76 for the Athletics, and 72 for the Angels. So we'll start with the guys at the top of the heap. The Mariners, 90.5. Next closest team, Tom. Astros, 85.5. Good little margin there for the Mariners. So let's start there with the Mariners. 90.5, Tom. 90-plus wins expectations, or maybe take a step back? I don't know.
I think that's the expectation for them, and I think it is very, very reasonable for them. The pitching set they have is unbelievable. The hitters that they have are great. They made those moves to re-sign or to trade for Naylor, then re-sign him. I think they will continue to be aggressive. When it comes to the Astros, it's about the under for me. I don't think they have enough talent. I think that they may trade away Christian Walker at a certain point. They don't have the pitching. If Hunter Brown or Christian Javier get hurt, they just don't have the depth at pitching that they once did. Correa is getting up there in age. He's going to spend time on the IL at some point. The same thing with Altuve. If Yordan Alvarez does not return to form, there's just too many question marks for me to buy into Houston.
Yeah, and you just look at that lineup again, and it's. I don't want to say it could have been an anomaly last year because that power surge was something to watch for the Mariners, Tom. And we'll sort of get to it as the season starts to progress and we get closer. Where like Cal Raleigh's over under for home runs, Tom, is not 59.5. Like, can he hit as many as he did last year? It's a lot less at this point right now. So the drop off. Let's just say you get a Cal Raleigh season with 40 home runs and not 60 home runs. What does that do to that lineup and also the pressure of the mounting expectations? But I always like to point back to, look, it's a combination of everything. It's the team that you have, which are going to be very competitive for the Mariners. They should be one of the best teams in the American League. The pitching staff, healthy throughout the regular season, Tom, as good as it gets 1 through 5. Every single day, it feels like my pitcher is more talented than yours and a decent bullpen. So when I look at that 90 number, unless you're just saying, it could be a fall off at this point, I think there's a chance they get there if they stay healthy. But it's one of those teams, Tom, like I told you right away, the Yankees. I think the Yankees get 91 wins right off the bat. I'll tell you that. I seem to be backtracking a little bit here on the Mariners where they could be a high 80s team in the playoffs. I just don't know if I want to take them to get into the low 90s.
Okay. I mean, I can certainly see that. The argument that I would make is to your point with the pitching, like it's just too good. You need to have so much regression from all of the pitchers. And even if Cal Raleigh has 45 home runs, let's say he goes 45 and like 110 for home runs and RBIs. Yeah. They could, and that's which is obviously worse than last year. That's still an awesome year at the plate. So if he is a little bit worse, just based on normal regression, but the other players around him are better, I'll take that pitching staff and that bullpen 10 times out of 10.
You take a look at some of those projections coming up on the season here with these teams in the West. And again, just sticks out like a sore thumb, Tom. The Rangers basically picking them to be roughly an 83-win team. It's like, okay, they're going to be 500. I think we're seeing it a little bit differently than the odds makers are at this point, because when you look sometimes at lineups, a lot of things have to happen right. No, the only thing that has to happen with the Rangers, Tom, is they stay healthy at this point. That's it. Like, give me a Seager year that we're used to seeing here where he plays the majority of the games. Jock Peterson protecting Seager. Langford, Nimmo is an interesting move now at the top of that lineup, and so much talent at the bottom. Like, you look at the bottom of their lineup and say, okay, Evan Carter, Josh Jung, and Josh Smith and Danny Jansen. They're not throwaway guys like, I hope you can hit 220 with 5 home runs. Like, no, this lineup top to bottom, if it's healthy, could be one of the better in baseball. The most intriguing team maybe in the American League for me, Tom, is the Rangers here. I'll take them to the over.
Last year they finished 81-81, and they weren't healthy for a majority of the season. They're losing Nate Eovaldi for a good portion. Now they bring in Mackenzie Gore. Now they have, hopefully a full lineup for the entire season. So if you're telling me they need to be 3 wins better than last year, which they probably could have done last year based on an error, a random throw, a miss this, a miss that, they could have had 83, 84 wins and had the exact same season essentially as last year. I think they give me the upper 80s this year. That's what I think they're going to be. Again, I think it's going to be the Mariners and the Rangers coming out of the AL West. I think it's going to be the Tigers and the Royals coming out of the AL Central. That's how I see those teams shaking out.
And by the way, like going against the grain, because most people are like, I don't even want to mess with the Angels. It's only 70.5 wins at this point, Tom. And a lot of people, like, again, books are bent on like, I want to take the Dodgers to the over, the Phillies to the over, the Yankees to the over, the Mariners to the over. Like, they're really good teams in baseball. But a lot of people are like, you know what? That value really comes with those teams that are not expected to do a lot, because 70 wins isn't a ton. And for a really good Major League Baseball team, like a great series for them, Tom, is winning 2 games and losing 1 in a 3-game set. Same thing, vice versa for a losing team. You're still supposed to win at least 1 out of every 3 games here. Am I wrong for thinking the Angels at 70.5 might have a chance to go over the number just because of how low it actually is?
I wouldn't bet it. I think the floor on the Angels is that they could be a worst record in baseball type of team. Not the White Sox, not the Rockies. I think it could be Angels or the Nationals. We'll get there next week for the Nats.
Come on, buy into a Mike Trout bounce back. Yoan Moncada, Joe Adele going from mid-30 home runs, Tom, to 45 bombs. Believe in the Angels. Maybe not. We'll be right back.
The level of hockey is being played. Like, if you're not really into the NHL, you should watch this and you will enjoy it. Like, it's a different level of hockey. Like, the NHL, basically, there's like 6 really good guys on each team. And in the Olympics, like, every guy is good. Like, it's next level. It's something to behold.
Winter Games Central. Only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers record was better, but he's still a James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
George Rutschman is an interesting one here. I mean, this was somebody that we were told was going to be a superstar. I feel like we've done this now with back-to-back young catchers on Baltimore that they've taken. They've taken Matt Wieters. Remember when they took him super high and everyone thought he was the second coming? Then they took Adley Rutschman. I guess the good news is they have Sam Basallo, who's supposed to be fantastic too, but can't whiff on 3 like that, can you?
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
No 90-game winners last year in the Central Division here in the American League. Last year's best team in that division was 88 wins by the Guardians, which was like, what the heck happened to the Detroit Tigers? They should have easily been into the mid-90s, but a late-season collapse. And then they had the Royals at 82 wins, and then the Twins at 70 wins, and the White Sox down there, 60-102. Far from that. If we look at this year coming into the season, Tom, how about this? The Tigers, 85.5 wins. The Royals, 82.5. The Guardians, 78.5. Twins, 72.5. And the White Sox, 67.5. Let's start with the Tigers up top at 85.5. Is this one of those teams that has enough to get to the 90s, Tom? Or is it one of those where do they even need to press the needle down the final 2 weeks? Should they run away with this division and coast to the finish line? 85.5. I got to tell you, Tom, it feels cheap, but there's a reason why that number is there.
It does feel a little bit cheap.
Yeah.
I spoke about this win total a couple weeks ago with Craig Mish on Newswire, about 85.5, and this was before the signing of Valdez or right after it happened. I believe in the Tigers. I think it's a good number. I think the division that they play in is extremely easy. I think the Royals are going to be better. I think the Guardians are going to be worse. I think the White Sox are absolutely terrible. The Twins are absolutely terrible. I think there's a very clear path forward to the Tigers being a 90-plus win team. This is where they should have been last year had they not collapsed at the end of the season, which, again, I'm going to chalk up to variance. The Tigers collapsing and the Guardians storming back, both of those things are not going to happen again. And the Tigers very easily could have been at that upper 80s, low 90s type of level if it wasn't for some wackiness last year.
And by the way, and also, I do think this year's version, Tom, of the Tigers is going to be better than last year's version as well. And compound it by saying maybe the division isn't going to be as tough. You should have some extra effort. And again, Skubal and Valdez healthy throughout the season as a 1-2 punch. Like, you're winning series right off the bat. It's just a matter of what you get behind him. And also, like, we're not looking at this lineup: Keith, Torres, Carpenter, Green, Torkelson, Perez. Like, oh, I hope what we get. Look, the expectations are that's going to be a really good lineup 1 through 9. So when I look at that 85.5, and again, I do say, like, there's a reason why the numbers are put in place. But if you're going to tell me at the beginning of the season, like, oh, by the way, the Tigers are going to be a 500 ball club, that should not be the case. They should be fighting for 90 wins. And quite frankly, they don't need 90 wins to cash in that ticket here. The Royals are an interesting one, too, at 82.5, Tom. That's basically looking at, again, a 500 type ball club. I think they can go over. And also the benefit of saying, well, the Guardians are at 78.5. Again, right around that 500 number. The fall off is expected there because I also think, Tom, they're one of those teams that could dismantle with the deadline again even more with the uncertainty coming up with the CBA. So it's almost like a buyer beware on some of these teams where I think the Tigers are in it to win it. I think the Royals are in it to win it. I think the other 3 teams are just wallowing this year.
They are. And one of the, kind of thought experiments that I like to do every year as we lead closer to the start of the season is looking at the playoff odds, to make the playoffs. For example, for the Royals, it's plus 120. What do they need to do in order to make the playoffs? And then I'd go back over the previous years and say, okay, teams that win the wild card have on average 87, 88, 89 wins, whatever it's going to be. So if I'm going to be taking a position on them to go over, I also think that they're in a spot to make the playoffs. So yes, on the Royals, I like what they're doing this year. I like the lineup. I like the fact that they moved the fences in. We're going to get more production out of them. So we'll have a position likely on the Royals to go over their team total and to make the playoffs. Because if they go over, they're likely to make the playoffs.
Looking at that lineup, I love it. Give me some Jack Kaggs this year. Again, the fences moving in will at least mean probably a 5% to 10% increase in home runs for some of those power guys. It means that much. You've watched a ton of games at Kansas City, Tom. You put that 95-degree Midwest heat in the month of July and August there with the fences in. I'm loving it here. So it's one thing to keep an eye on. As much as we mourn what's happening in Tampa Bay with their field, it's fantastic what's going on in Kansas City. Let's transition, Tom, into the awards market. And the one that's always going to be up is it Aaron Judge's award to win yet again for AL MVP? He's coming in here with a price point around a plus 185. The guy right behind him who hopes to add power and also 200 hits this year is Bobby Witt Jr. plus 450. Cal Raleigh, who gave a valiant effort going up against Aaron Judge for the MVP race last year, Tom, at a 7-1 price. Gunnar Henderson, Julio Rodriguez, and so forth there. But it seems to me like unless there's an injury to Aaron Judge, Tom, he was flirting with 400 last year. I mean, come on.
He was, obviously a lot of people were having a discussion last year about should it be Judge, should it be Cal Raleigh. The argument that I always continue to make for Aaron Judge, which we saw come to fruition at the end of the season, is Aaron Judge led not the AL, but all of baseball in total bases, right? And he played fewer games than Cal Raleigh. Cal Raleigh had more chances to pick up more bases, and he wasn't able to do so. So Aaron Judge was hitting well over 300, nearly 100 points higher than Cal Raleigh, and he hit for power, and he led all of baseball in hitting and total bases. If Aaron Judge replicates 90% of that, he's going to win it again. When you have a hitter like Cal Raleigh, who peaked last year with 60-plus home runs, and also hitting in the 240s, 250s, it's tough to give him an award when we know he's not going to hit 60-plus home runs again. So I would rather bet on Cal Raleigh home run props rather than bet on an MVP, because I think he can go over his home run total and still lose the MVP again.
It's crazy, too, because as you hit the nail on the head there, like, okay, what happens if he approaches 57 home runs? Like, it's probably not good enough. Like, wait a second, why isn't it? Because you have otherworldly type players like Aaron Judge, and also coming back to the season much more healthy this year for Aaron Judge. Not worried about the elbow. Can he stick it out for a full? Again, he's not going to play 162 games, but let's pencil in 145 games for him and only misses 17. What would those numbers actually look like here? And also plays in one of the better hitters' ballparks, and also Red Sox, great hitters ballpark. Orioles moving their fences back in. Toronto already did that. So the chance for Aaron Judge to go 50-plus bombs is very, very good. Now, let me ask you this, Tom. Bobby Witt Jr. is in second. Great baseball player. He's got to really run it up and probably 40-plus home runs, lead Major League Baseball in batting average, and also, somehow get close to that hitting numbers, 215, 220 on the season, which is so hard to do. Who else do you feel is a legitimate shot for you to win the MVP? Let's take Aaron Judge and Bobby Witt off the board and Cal Raleigh. Really Gunnar Henderson, or is there somebody way down that line like, hey, keep an eye on this guy?
I know a lot of people are going to try and make the argument for Nick Kurtz based on what he did last year and then say, if we extrapolate that over 162 games, it would be this, and this versus home runs, RBIs, average, ISO, whatever it might be. But buying into a second-year player at a sub 20-1 number seems a bit much. I think the reasonable answer is J-Ram, Jose Ramirez for the Guardians. You know, him putting another 40-40 season on the table is viable. Him hitting over 300 is viable. Him having a Gold Glove, again, is viable. So there's not many players that I can buy into. J-Rod, it's a terrible number. I just don't think that number should be that close to another player on his own team that is 7-1. J-Rod would have to hit 70 home runs for him to be in a conversation of an MVP. You can't have two MVP players on the same team. That's just not going to happen. When it comes to Kurtz, I think he has the potential to do it, but I don't like the number. Vladdy, I'm not sold that he has enough power. I think he'll have more home runs than he did last year, but him tripling the home runs from last year, he would need to do, which is just not going to happen. Jose Ramirez is the only viable option. Roman Anthony hasn't put together a full season for me to be willing to buy into it. And Caminero, he's going to take a step back in his power because they're moving back to the Trop in Tampa. There's no viable option outside of Gunnar Henderson. I want to believe him from a talent perspective. I just don't think he'll have the numbers to match the other players.
No, I'm with you on that, Tommy, because Junior Caminero sticks out at 25-1. Like, you're actually getting a severe downgrade of where you're playing. Like, can he still hit 45 home runs? Yes, but if he played outdoors, you'd be expecting that to maybe happen again. That's not going to happen. Yordan Alvarez is a very interesting one at 35-1, Tom. And also, the guy that sits at 15-1, also with Nick Kurtz, is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. The power numbers unexpectedly weren't there. If he has a bounce-back power season, that's a marquee franchise. That's a name player that we're expecting to be good. And if he is, I think he is going to get a bump at this point here. You go down to some of those other guys on this, like Byron Buxton had a great year last year. I just don't think that would be in the cards. Vinny Pasquantino's 125-1. I'm trying to find out here. I don't see Salvador Perez on this list. I'm just trying to figure that, like, you know, Bobby Witt's going to get a bump there, plus 450 playing that ballpark. Maybe Salvi can hit 40-plus home runs and maybe creep into it like Cal Raleigh we saw last year. There's a lot of fun markets here, but there are some guys that I like a little bit more than others. But it just feels like if Aaron Judge doesn't get injured, much less we talk about Shohei Ohtani in the National League, it's his to win. It really is.
It really is. We're going to have a discussion throughout the season when it comes to Judge and Ohtani. If this happens, they'll win it. If they just do this, they'll win the award. That's the only way someone else gets into the conversation.
Yeah, a lot of good ball players there, but Aaron Judge at a plus 185 price. Those numbers certainly going to be due to change. Guys will surge in the month of April and May, and away we go into the season. Corey Seager, 30-1 for those Rangers if he stays healthy. Donnie and Tom talking baseball. We'll be right back.
The level of hockey is being played. Like, if you're not really into the NHL, you should watch this and you will enjoy it. Like, it's a different level of hockey. Like, the NHL, basically, there's like 6 really good guys on each team. And in the Olympics, like, every guy is good. Like, it's next level. It's something to behold.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers' record was better, but he's still James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
George Rutschman is an interesting one here. I mean, this was somebody that we were told was going to be a superstar. I feel like we've done this now with back-to-back young catchers on Baltimore that they've taken. They've taken Matt Wieters. Remember when they took him super high and everyone thought he was the second coming? Then they took Adley Rutschman. I guess the good news is they have Sam Basallo, who's supposed to be fantastic too, but can't whiff on 3 like that, can you?
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Back at it here. The Cy Young in the American League, Tom. Like, it feels like right now we have like Shohei Ohtani, let's just call it AL or NL MVP, Aaron Judge, like far and away the best. Then you get to the pitching prospects and say, did you ever see Tarek Skubal pitch? And the expectations are, well, has he won it? Yeah, he's back to back, and he's probably going to go back to back to back, Tom, if he stays healthy. He's the favorite right now at a plus 240 price, followed by Garrett Crochet, who was sensational last year for the Boston Red Sox. Jacob DeGrom, what year is this? DeGrom popping up at a 10-1, Tom, here for 2026. Cole Reagans, Hunter Brown, Max Fried, Framber Valdez, and away we go. Start with Tarek Skubal here in the expectations, Tom. Back to, can we get fatigue on him like we saw with Nikola Jokic in the NBA?
If Skubal puts up the same performance he has over the last 2 years, I think he can win the award, or I think he can lose the award, even if he does much of the same, because I think that Crochet was like a 1 beat to him last year. And if Crochet puts up the same numbers or slightly better, I think there are people that may just vote for Crochet over Skubal because of that fatigue factor that you're talking about. To me, it's a coin flip. I think those are the two best pitchers in the AL by far. We'll get to the NL next week. We'll do all of that. But Skubal, Crochet, do I want to bet on them? No, I would never bet on a Cy Young at sub 10-1. There are players that I can make the argument for at higher than 10-1, which we can get into as we move down this board.
Let's start at 10-1, Tom. Like Jacob DeGrom is back in there, expected to be healthy. But we know at this day and age, Tom, like you have to be dominant to start the season. You need the strikeout numbers. They don't just, oh, well, he pitched 2 months. Let's extrapolate that for the end of the season. No. Tom, you got to be healthy in April and also in September and blazing all the way through. There's nobody and I understand he can be very good. But if there's one guy I look at, let's just say 22-1 or less that I will not take, it's Jacob DeGrom.
Absolutely. And that's what it comes down to, where, he may be super effective when he's out there, but he'll never have the innings to match Skubal. He'll never have the strikeouts to match Crochet, and people just won't vote for him. Now, you could say he pitched awesome, but he's just never going to have it. Starting at that 10-1 number or lower, I think there's two players, or I'm going to call it 2/3, that come to mind. Hunter Brown at 12-1, I think that's a viable option. And then it would be Brian Wu or Logan Gilbert. I wouldn't bet on both of them. Teammates, there's going to be some type of attrition where they take votes away from each other. But I think they're both somewhat viable to win the award. I would pick Brian Wu. I think 17-1 is a fine number on him. If you want to make the argument for Logan Gilbert at 22-1, that's certainly fine. But it comes down to being Hunter Brown or Brian Wu as the real betting options for the Cy Young. I'm not betting on Skubal. I'm not betting on Crochet, and it's not DeGrom.
You know who I find really interesting here, Tom? Because when you change teams, sometimes you get forgotten a little bit here. But also at the same time, when you change teams and go with the best pitcher in Major League Baseball and Skubal, like Framber Valdez would not be 14-1, Tom, if he was still in the Astros. He would be much higher. But now it feels like they're battling back and forth. And the reason I think that it could be an option is injuries happen in baseball. Skubal is a power pitcher. If he can miss 2 to 3 weeks at this point to give somebody behind him with still a good baseball team in a pitcher's ballpark, I think Valdez is interesting here, but it's always that notion of, well, how can he be the Cy Young if he's not even the best pitcher on his team? We've seen crazier things happen at this point, so I do think that is one of those where it's like, you know what? That could come to fruition. Give me an option here, Tom, by the way. Looking for the Mariners. Like you see Brian Wu out there and Logan Gilbert and George Kirby. Like, if I gave you those three pitchers, who finishes the highest when it's all said and done, the Cy Young mark? Like, who would you take between those three guys?
I would take Wu. I think Gilbert's the best of the pitcher, at least he's shown it thus far. But, what Brian Wu has in terms of his underlying metrics, and I think the true ceiling for Brian Wu is, that's where I would go with. When you look at some of the projections, at least for some of these players, the potential 28% strikeout rate that we could be getting from Brian Wu, I think is just a touch higher compared to Logan Gilbert. Now, Logan Gilbert's been a mainstay for a number of years, and he's an innings eater for the Mariners. But I think Brian Wu has more of an it factor for strikeouts and upside compared to Logan Gilbert.
All right, Tom, here's where you like to shine here. The Rookie of the Year in the American League.
Yeah.
Yasevich is the favorite right now. It's plus 350. Okamoto, plus 550. Morikawa, 600 or plus 600. Carter Jensen popped in at 8-1 price. Ime, and then also McGonigal. If I gave you a couple bets, like spray the board with these, Tom, who would be your favorite? Is it Yasevich, or is it one of those guys, Okamoto or Murakami here, that we don't get to see too much about, but we're just taking it saying they should be really good?
Right. It wouldn't be a Savage. A 3.5 number on a pitcher in his first full season is crazy. He put up an unbelievable performance in the playoffs and the World Series. We all know that, but he only pitched 14 innings in the regular season last year. Yeah, I need to see 100 innings out of him. Like, if he pitched half the season, obviously he wouldn't be eligible for Rookie of the Year, but I just don't know what we're going to be getting from him. Okamoto or Murakami, I'm just not sold on yet. I think there's upside for them. Murakami could have awesome home run numbers, but the White Sox are just terrible. You couldn't be going there. It comes down to really, I think, 3 players for me. Carter Jensen for the Royals should be their starting catcher. I'm interested in Kevin McGonigal for the Tigers. This is assuming that he the lineup or makes the roster in spring training. We are recording this on or there's a live show today. I'm recording this, but this is February 22nd. Obviously a full spring training to play out. And then for me, Dylan Beavers or Chase DeLauder for the Orioles and the Guardians respectively. Again, for DeLauder, it's more about staying healthy. For Beavers, it would be the production. Does he get there? Can he match what the other players do? Will he have as many home runs as Murakami, who has immense amount of power coming from the Japanese league? I don't know if he'll be there, but that's where I'm interested in as of now.
I do like the fact, Tom, it's not like, okay, you have a guy minus 120 and everybody else is distant here. Like under 20 to 5-1, there's a lot of legitimate players. And some of these guys looking to break through maybe in the rotation won't even start the season early. Like, talk about early, nice little pun intended. Connolly early here for the Boston Red Sox, 2.33 ERA last year. One of those guys can sort of come in. But also, DeLauder, like filling into that lineup where they're probably just going to let him bat there the entire season, say, work it out yourself. He could put up numbers.
He should, and that's what I want to see now. Chase DeLauder, he's 24. He's a little bit of an older prospect. He hasn't like fully broken through. Obviously, some of the injuries have held him back. But to your point, if he's good enough, bat him fourth, bat him fifth. Like have J Ram second. Have you have Manzardo there, and then you have DeLauder. There's like give him all the at bats he could possibly want because there's no reason not to because that lineup is desperately needing power and production.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to root on some players like Carter Jensen because that means if he's having a great season, Kansas City is doing some damage in that ballpark. So one of those to have fun with, but it's an interesting market that's going to change and fluctuate all throughout the season. Yasevich, is going to be up with the big league club and be going all the way through. That's why he's getting the bump. But some of these guys, like Nick Kurtz, can appear out of nowhere and absolutely dominate Tom. That's what we do. We get you the people that you need to know for this 2026 Major League Baseball season. One more segment to go. Let's take a look at those pennant options here in the AL. Love to talk baseball here in the month of February.
The level of hockey is being played. Like, if you're not really into the NHL, you should watch this and you will enjoy it. Like, it's a different level of hockey. Like, the NHL, basically, there's like 6 really good guys on each team. And in the Olympics, like, every guy is good. Like, it's next level. It's something to behold.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers' record was better, but he's still James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
George Rutschman is an interesting one here. I mean, this was somebody that we were told was going to be a superstar. I feel like we've done this now with back-to-back young catchers on Baltimore that they've taken. They've taken Matt Wieters. Remember when they took him super high and everyone thought he was the second coming? Then they took Adley Rutschman. I guess the good news is they have Sam Basallo, who's supposed to be fantastic too, but can't whiff on 3 like that, can you?
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
The AL, Tom, spent a lot of time talking about them today, and rightfully so. We're building our way to the Major League Baseball season, which, again, March 25th, almost a month away. We'll be here sooner than later. And also, as we point out, the WBC, we got you covered all the way through that tournament as well. Could it be half as good, Tom, as the Olympics hockey were? We're certainly going to find out. But also, let's start here and end in the American League and talk about the teams that are anticipated to win the American League and which teams you might be able to take a flyer on. The leader right now in the clubhouse, odds-wise, is the New York Yankees at a plus 470 price. The Mariners 5-1, the Blue Jays 7-1, followed by the Red Sox here. A whole lot of teams that are expected to do a lot of damage, Tom. But as always, we start with the top of the Yankees. Do you agree they should be the favorites right now to win the American League odds-wise?
No, I hate these numbers. I legitimately hate these numbers. The Yankees, Mariners, Blue Jays, I think they should all be much closer. They should all be essentially co-favorites. If you want to make the Yankees and the Mariners co-favorites, which they are, for 7,500, let's call it what it is. The rest of the numbers, Donnie, I hate these. If I could go through these quickly, because they're the Red Sox and the Orioles having better odds than the Tigers is insane. We have 4 teams from the same division at the top of the AL pennant. Oh, not all these teams are going to make 4 teams from the AL aren't going to make the playoffs. What are we doing here? The Tigers being at 9-1 when the Red Sox are at 7-1 is crazy. The Orioles being better than the Tigers is unacceptable. The Tigers should be where the Tigers should be tied with the Blue Jays. It should be Yankees and Mariners in one tier, and then should be Blue Jays and Tigers in the next tier. Having the Orioles, a team that hasn't made the playoffs, being better than the team that's going to win a division with the Tigers. The Orioles may not make the playoffs, and the Tigers are going to win their own division, and they have worse odds compared to the Orioles, is unacceptable. The Orioles should be further down. The Tigers should be higher. The Rangers should be higher. The Rangers and the Orioles should be in the same tier, not the Orioles ahead of the Tigers. I hate these odds.
By the way, Tom, you bring up a great point on this too, because sometimes we just look at like what the teams we think are better than the others. But understand this: it's not played on paper; it's played on the field, and home field advantage usually means something. Now, understand this: didn't work out for the Milwaukee Brewers last year, as they were the number 1 seed in the National League. But when you're the number 1 seed, if you just play good baseball, Tom, you are the home team all the way through to the World Series. And we're not asking who's going to win the World Series and knock off the Dodgers here. But if you are right, Tom, Detroit comes in at a 9-1 price. We think they're probably far and away the best team in the division. Now, granted, you might argue that the Royals might be able to touch them, but let's just say they win it. There's no guarantee the Yankees are going to win this division at a plus 470 price. There's no guarantee Toronto at a 7-1 price is going to win that, or the Boston Red Sox, or as you pointed out, the Baltimore Orioles. So when you say to yourself, okay, I think the Yankees are better, and then you go, okay, what's going to happen in the playoffs? Oh, Skubal and Valdez. Oh, no, by the way, Detroit's the home team in this one. I think you're spot on when you take a look at those price points here and say at a 9-1 price. If I'm going to say extrapolate to the playoffs, and my 1-2 punch is healthy, my lineup is somewhat healthy, and I'm home, come on now. You got to have much better ratings there, or much better odds, I should say, for the Detroit Tigers. I'm with you on there, Tom.
Yeah, it's really that simple. But having 4 teams from the same division, all having 4 of the top, the 4 of the top 6 odds or 5 odds? Yankees, Mariners, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Orioles. Yeah, 4 of the top 5 odds to win the AL pennant all come from the same division. The math just doesn't math at that point. It's really that simple. You need to have odds on all of them to make the playoffs, which is insane. It's the Tigers. That is the answer as of now. Can other teams like the Rangers or the Royals make the playoffs? Sure. Do I have interest in their pennant odds? Yeah. No, because I believe the Tigers are a tier above them. I believe the Tigers are in the tier of the Yankees, Mariners, Jays. That's what it comes down to. It's like we have a group of 4 at the top of the American League, and that's where they should be.
By the way, you see that straight up cutoff there, right? You see the 14-1, like, the Royals can do damage, and then the Guardians behind them at 25-1. Because sometimes I like to ask you, Tom, like, hey, if you're going to take a long shot here, who can come up and maybe win the AL? Like Guardians, Athletics, Rays, Twins, Angels. Like the only reason I would say like the Rays, just because their name is there and they're somewhat competitive at 35-1. But it does feel like once you get past the Royals, those teams don't have any chances. They should be priced way higher than what they are.
No. Now, Donnie, let's say the Guardians go on another season like they did last year and they make the playoffs. I could see that happening. Sure. I don't think so. I think it'll be the Royals this year. They can make the playoffs, but they're not good enough to win multiple series against these top tier teams. That's what it comes down to.
Now, the fun part about this, too, is throughout the season, we'll be FanDuel, DraftKings, Bet365, and also introduce you guys, once again, if you don't know, about those predictive markets. And the reason we bring this up is, let's just say, Tom, you take a Tampa Bay Rays at 35-1 to win the American League. And you say, okay, after a month, they're actually in first place in the AL East. Maybe injuries and playing really good baseball. You cash that ticket out like the stock market right now. You already got money in your back pocket, and it's May the 1st at this point. So we'll have all of that fun and much more. But it's fun, Tom, talking with you every single Sunday, which we'll do right up through the Major League Baseball start of the season, getting the people the information that they need to know, odds-wise, but more importantly, just talking about baseball and sparking that knowledge back up. Like, oh, I forgot about that last year. Or, oh, yeah, this player will be good, Tom. Love to do it. We're going to do it all season long. It's Tom Vecchio, Donnie Wrights out to SportsGrid Network, and it's Pro Baseball Today. We'll see you next Sunday.